Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So one gift I want to give all of you guys and everybody around the world this holiday season is to raise awareness about the dangers of distracted driving. I spent some time in Taiwan. I also spent some time in Eastern Europe, and I noticed one glaring difference between their culture and ours. Over in the Eastern world, people live much more mindfully. They know when they're driving, they know when they're eating, they know when they're doing whatever, right? Here in the United States, everything goes into a blur for some reason. So many people zone out at their jobs while driving, while eating. We eat very mindlessly. Actually, the only time people are mindful that they're even eating is when something stops them from eating for some reason, right? Spend some time with your best friend and do something that requires them to put their food down. Oh my God! They'll suddenly realize that they're eating and they can't put their food down for whatever reason. I can't tell you how many times I run into that. Even I myself used to be guilty of that, right? I used to eat almost continuously. I would have a difficult time going into venues that didn't allow you to bring outside food. Even though I was eating mindlessly all the time, I had dietary restrictions. And up until a few years ago, go into a movie, go into a ball game, or somewhere where they didn't allow you to bring outside food, right? Or doing a task that wasn't really compatible with eating, right, was a difficult thing for me to do up until a few years ago. Nowadays I can tolerate that. I still don't like it sometimes, but I'm much more mindful of it nowadays. And what drives me nuts is people drive without thinking about it. They zone out. How many times have you heard somebody say, I drove all the way from Phoenix all the way to Albuquerque. I have no idea how I made it there, right? I think that's a very dangerous concept. To give you an idea, you guys see my art that I make. I have a friend who owns a shooting range, and he gives me all sorts of spent bullets and spent BB pellets, among other things, that I then melt. It's mostly lead. I need to get an X-ray machine, by the way, or an XRF gun when I can afford it. They cost $10,000 to $20,000 each, but it will detect the alloy of what I'm melting. And I bet there's a lot of interesting metals among them. I usually melt them all together because I can't really tell them apart. But last time I poured one of those Buddhas, the 10-pound, approximately 10 pounds of metal, and I was surprised at how low the melting point of that whole mixture was. It was only 160 degrees Celsius or so. Lead melts at 330 Celsius. Bismuth melts at 270. But a mixture of them will melt at a considerably low. I suspect that's what I have, right? Nowadays, there's a lot of lead-free ammunition. And then some of the bullets didn't even melt at all, right? And I still have a lot of slag. I hate to just toss that slag away, by the way, because some of these metals can be worth or not necessarily worth a lot, but they're rare, and I hate to just throw away perfectly good resources. So I've been holding on to that for now. And that's... The stuff that didn't melt, I suspect it could even be tungsten. Nowadays, there's a lot of lead-free alternative ammunition. And then the stuff that melted had like a melting point of 160, 170. I suspect I had some kind of lead-bismuth mixture. But anyway, back to the story. I went to his shooting range, and you got people with a weapon that's fully capable of hurting themselves, killing themselves, and they're very mindful of what they're doing. Your car is just as dangerous a weapon. If you can't imagine daydreaming while going to the shooting range or eating while shooting, you really shouldn't be eating while driving or daydreaming while driving or zoning out or driving while sleep deprived or while distracted by anything, right? Can you imagine shooting away at the shooting range and texting or talking on the phone? If you can't imagine that, you probably shouldn't be doing it in your car either. And unfortunately, driving has become such a background activity. We don't bat a second thought at it, and I think that's wrong. I'm actually a little bit terrified that there's going to be self-driving cars. And the reason I'm terrified is that, obviously, we're not going to go overnight to suddenly everybody jumping into a self-driving car tomorrow, right? If we did that, I might be okay with it. There's probably going to be a transition where there's going to be both kinds of cars. And you might find yourself in either one, right? Maybe one day you'll be in your self-driving car, but then the next, maybe your car's broken down, you're driving a car manually. And I think that will create all sorts of drama because people will get so used to getting in the car and doing all sorts of crap, right? I suspect when we fully go into self-driving cars, there's going to be a ton of other stuff going on, right? People are going to drink a lot more, text a lot more, and we're going to all gain a lot of weight probably. And I'm not sure if that's a good trade-off. I think we should just treat driving like you would treat working with dangerous chemicals, shooting, or a dangerous job of some sort, right? Nobody in their right mind, if you're a doctor or a surgeon, would you ever dream of eating while operating on a patient? Would you ever dream of eating while doing anything particularly dangerous, right? Trying to think what else could be dangerous. Imagine, see, I don't work a dangerous job. I teach at Phoenix College, right? But there's always a constant threat of an active shooter or something. I actually got in trouble during an active shooter drill one time, actually. I sometimes get too carried away with what I'm doing, and I didn't think it was a big deal. I continued to teach while the active drill was going on, and the students didn't want to leave the classroom. It said it was an active drill. I got in trouble for that. I think what happened was I got inspired by Taylor Swift continuing her concert despite it pouring, and given that the students didn't want to leave anyway, I continued teaching away with the drill blaring in the background, right? But anyway, sometimes you see, even I sometimes daydream a little bit too much, right? You can only imagine what it's like to do that while driving, right? All right, thought I would point out some life hacks, right? Respect driving, respect your body. I hate to be the one to point this out. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.